Young Marines mocked the elderly man watching their rifle qualification. He was just a janitor, they said. Too old, too frail to understand what real marksmanship meant. But when their best shooter missed the 1,000-yard target for the third time, the old man said nothing. He calmly walked over, took the rifle from the recruit's shaking hands, and took his stance. Everyone stopped. Some legends don't need to speak. They just remind you why they became legends. Is this some kind of joke? Staff Sergeant Marcus Chen's voice cut across the rifle range like a whip crack. He was staring at the old man standing behind the firing line, watching the Marines with quiet intensity. The man was maybe 75, thin as a rail, wearing the faded coveralls of base maintenance. His silver hair was cut high and tight, military precision that spoke of old habits that never died. He held a push broom in weathered hands, but he wasn't sweeping. He was watching. "Sir, this is a restricted range during qualification." Chen stepped toward him, his tone professional but firm. "You need to clear the area." The old man didn't respond. His eyes were fixed on the target downrange, a steel silhouette at 1,000 yards that had defeated every Marine that morning. 8 shooters, 24 attempts. Not a single hit. Chen waited for an answer. Got nothing. The old man just stood there, perfectly still, watching. Behind Chen, 6 Marines stood in various stages of frustration. They were the battalion's best shots, handpicked for sniper screening, and they were failing spectacularly. Lance Corporal Diaz, the youngest of the group and cocky as hell, noticed the old man. "Yo, Grandpa's got opinions. Look at him watching like he knows what's up." Corporal Martinez, the battalion's top shooter with multiple competition wins, was on the firing line. He'd just missed his 3rd consecutive shot at the 1,000-yard target. His face was red with frustration and embarrassment. "Old man probably thinks he could do better," he muttered, not quite under his breath. A few Marines chuckled, dark humor to cut the tension of repeated failure. The old man said nothing, didn't smile, didn't react, just kept watching with those pale gray eyes, the color of gunmetal, seeing something they couldn't. "All right, Martinez, one more," Chen called out. "Take your time. Read the wind again." Martinez settled into position, cheek welded to the stock. He watched the flags at 500 and 800 yards, saw them contradicting each other, left to right to left. He made his best guess, adjusted his hold, controlled his breathing. The rifle cracked. "Miss, left, about 2 feet," the spotter called. "God damn it." Martinez slammed his fist into the dirt. "This is impossible. The wind's all over the place." "It's not impossible," Diaz said with forced confidence. "We're just having an off day. We're all having an off day, all 8 of us." Martinez stood up, brushing dirt from his uniform. "Something's wrong. Either the ammunition's off case or the conditions are just too..." He stopped. The old man was walking toward him. Not fast, not aggressive. Just walking with that slight limp, his right leg not quite bending properly, moving with the deliberate pace of someone who'd learned long ago that rushing got you killed. Sir?" Chen moved to intercept. "I already told you. This is a restricted..." The old man walked past him like he wasn't there, walked right up to Martinez, who stood there holding the M40, uncertain what was happening. The old man extended his hand, not asking, just waiting. "What? You want..." Martinez looked at Chen, confused. The old man's expression didn't change. His hand stayed out, steady as stone. His eyes met Martinez's, and there was something in that gaze that made the young corporal's protests die in his throat. Something ancient and absolute. Martinez handed him the rifle. The old man took it with a kind of familiarity that made Chen's stomach tighten. The way those weathered hands found the balance point immediately. The way his thumb checked the safety without looking. The way he brought it to his shoulder like it was an extension of his own body. Muscle memory older than some of the Marines watching. "Sir, you can't just..." Chen started. The old man ignored him, walked to the firing line, didn't get into a prone position, just stood there, rifle shouldered, looking downrange through the scope. The Marines looked at each other, a mixture of confusion and disbelief on their faces. "Is he seriously..." Diaz began. "Shut up," Chen said quietly. Something about the way the old man moved had changed the atmosphere completely. The mockery was gone. They were watching something they didn't understand yet. The old man worked the bolt. The action was smooth, practiced, perfect. He chambered around with the efficiency of someone who'd done it 10,000 times. His breathing changed, became slow, controlled. The kind of breathing that comes from decades behind a rifle, standing, no support, just him and the rifle and 1,000 yards of impossible wind. Martinez grabbed his spotting scope, more out of reflex than belief. "I got you," he said quietly, not sure why he was helping. The old man settled. His body went perfectly still despite his age, despite standing, despite holding a rifle that weighed 12 pounds. The Marines watched, transfixed, as this thin old man in maintenance coveralls became something else entirely, something they recognized but couldn't name. The silence was absolute. Even the wind seemed to pause. The rifle cracked. The sound was sharp, clean, professional. The recoil rolled through the old man's shoulder and he absorbed it like water, already working the bolt, chambering another round. Impact. Martinez's voice came through the spotting scope, disbelief clear. Dead center, perfect hit. No one moved. No one breathed. The old man fired again. Didn't adjust, didn't hesitate. Hit, same hole. A third shot, same smooth motion, same perfect stillness. Hit, same hole. What the fuck? The old man fired 5 rounds in 15 seconds, standing. No support. At 1,000 yards in wind that had defeated 8 Marines. Every round impacted within a 6-inch circle, center mass on the target. He cleared the rifle, engaged the safety, and turned around. His face showed nothing, no pride, no satisfaction, just the same quiet expression he'd worn the entire time. He walked back to Martinez and handed him the rifle. Their eyes met. Martinez took it with shaking hands, his mouth open, no words coming out. The old man picked up his broom, started to walk away. "Wait," Chen's voice was hoarse. "Sir, please wait." The old man stopped but didn't turn around. "Who are you?" Chen asked. It wasn't a command, it was a plea. The old man stood silent for a long moment. Then, without turning, "Maintenance, Building 12. That's not an answer," Chen said, his voice stronger now. "That's shooting. That's not, you can't just..." He struggled for words. "Sir, that was master-level marksmanship. That was instructor-level shooting. That was necessary," the old man said quietly. "You were missing. I showed you it's possible. Now you know the problem isn't the conditions, it's your training." Diaz found his voice, all cockiness gone. "How? How did you do that, standing in this wind at 1,000 yards? The old man didn't answer. Martinez spoke, his voice shaking. "The wind flags. You didn't even look at them. How did you read the wind?" "I didn't read the flags," the old man said. "Flags lie. I read the air." "You can't read air," Chen said, but his voice lacked conviction. "You can. When you've done it long enough. When you've had to. When your life and the lives of the men you're protecting depend on it." The old man's voice carried weight now, decades of it. "You watch the grass move between the flags. You watch how the heat shimmer bends the light. You feel it on your face and you learn to trust what your body knows instead of what your equipment tells you." Chen took a step closer. "Where did you learn that?" "Vietnam. A long time ago." "From who?" The old man finally turned. Those gunmetal eyes swept across the 6 Marines, measuring them, seeing something they couldn't see in themselves. "From men who aren't here anymore. Men who made shots that mattered. Men who came home or didn't." His voice was soft but carried like thunder. "Men who understood that shooting isn't about the rifle. It's about the will. About staying absolutely still when everything in you wants to shake. About making the shot because someone's life depends on it." Martinez's voice was barely a whisper. "What's your name, sir?" The old man looked at him for a long moment. Then he set down his broom, reached into his coverall pocket, and pulled out a small, worn challenge coin. He handed it to Martinez. The coin was old, scratched, faded. On one side, a Marine Corps sniper emblem. On the other, barely legible, Ghost 6, 1st Marine Division Scout Sniper Platoon, 1967-1975. Martinez stared at it. His face went white. Ghost 6, you're Ghost 6 Thornton. The old man took the coin back gently. I was. A long time ago. Holy shit, Diaz breathed. You're real. I thought you were just a story. Chen was staring at the old man like he'd seen the dead walk, because in a way, he had. Ghost 6 Thornton was a legend in the sniper community. Stories told late at night about a Marine who'd operated in the worst parts of Vietnam, who'd made impossible shots in impossible conditions, who'd saved entire companies with a rifle and the will to use it, who'd disappeared after the war and was never heard from again, standing in front of them in maintenance coveralls, holding a broom. Sir, Chen said, and his voice carried genuine respect now. We need your help. Thornton looked at Chen for a long moment. You don't need my help. You need to train harder. Sir, with respect, Chen began. You want respect? Thornton's voice stayed quiet, but gained an edge. Then stop making excuses. Stop blaming the wind, the rifle, the conditions. 8 Marines, 24 shots, 0 hits. That's not bad luck. That's fundamental failure. The words hit like body blows. Martinez looked at the ground. Diaz's jaw clenched. We're the best shooters in the battalion, Chen said, trying to keep his voice steady. We qualified expert. We've won competitions. Competitions. Thornton said the word like it tasted bitter. Competitions have known distances, perfect conditions, and all the time in the world. Combat doesn't. Combat gives you 3 seconds to make a shot that saves 6 lives or loses them. Combat gives you wind you can't measure, and a target that won't stand still. Combat doesn't care about your score. He picked up his broom again. You're good at shooting, but you don't know how to shoot yet. There's a difference. Then teach us, Martinez said suddenly. Sir, please, if you know how to do what you just did, teach us. We're supposed to be going to sniper school in 6 weeks, but if we can't hit at 1,000 yards, we'll wash out in the first week. Good, Thornton said flatly. If you can't make the shot, you shouldn't be a sniper. Washouts don't get Marines killed. The brutality of it silenced them all. Chen took a breath, fighting to control his frustration. Sir, we want to learn. We want to be better. But we need help. Real help. Not just being told we're failing. Thornton stopped walking, stood there with his back to them, gripping the broom handle. You know why they called me Ghost 6? His voice was different now, hollower. It wasn't because I was invisible. It was because everyone I worked with died. 5 sniper teams. 5 different partners. All dead. I was the only one who kept walking away. The Marines went silent. My first partner, Corporal Davies, took a round through the neck while I was on the scope. Bled out while I held him. Second partner, Lance Corporal Huang, stepped on a mine 3 feet from our hide. I was far enough away to survive. He wasn't. Third partner. Thornton's voice cracked slightly. Third partner was my best friend, PFC Michael Reeves. We were together for 8 months, made 43 confirmed kills together. He took shrapnel from a mortar round meant for me. Died screaming my name. Martinez felt tears in his eyes. Diaz looked away. My fourth partner was barely 19, kid named Patterson. Wanted to be a sniper so badly he volunteered for every mission. Got shot in the head by an enemy sniper while we were relocating. I saw the shooter. Made the shot. Killed him. But Patterson was already gone. Thornton turned around and his face was wet with tears he wasn't trying to hide. Fifth partner, Sergeant Castillo, survived 7 months with me. 7 months. We thought we'd broken the curse. Then our extraction helicopter got shot down. He was trapped in the wreckage, burning, screaming. I tried to get him out. Tried so hard I melted the skin off my hands. He held up his palms, showing scar tissue the Marines hadn't noticed before. I failed. He burned alive while I watched. The silence was crushing. So you want me to teach you? You want me to train you to be snipers? Thornton's voice was raw now. Every time I teach someone to shoot, every time I pass on what I know, I see their faces. All 5 of them. Boys who trusted me. Who learned from me? Who died while I lived? Chen's voice was gentle. Sir, that wasn't your fault. I know that. My head knows that. Thornton tapped his temple. But knowing and feeling are different things. I came home from Vietnam in 1975, 48 years ago. And I still wake up hearing Patterson call my name. Still smell Castillo burning. Still see Reeves bleeding out in my arms. He looked at the 6 Marines standing before him. I became a janitor because janitors don't get people killed. Janitors clean up messes. They don't create them. I push a broom instead of pulling a trigger because a broom doesn't have ghosts attached to it. Martinez stepped forward. Sir, those men died serving. They knew the risks, and I guarantee every one of them would be proud of what they accomplished with you, of the lives you saved together. How would you know? Thornton's voice had heat now. You're what, 25? You've never watched your partner die. You've never had to write a letter to a mother explaining why her son isn't coming home. You've never... You're right. Martinez interrupted. I haven't, but I want to serve. I want to be a sniper because I want to protect my brothers. I want to make the shots that save lives. And if I die doing it, I'll die knowing I did something that mattered. Thornton stared at him. You say that now. But when it happens, when you're holding someone while they bleed, when their blood is on your hands and their last breath is calling for their mother, you'll understand why I stopped. Then why did you pick up the rifle? Chen asked quietly. Why did you make those shots? If you really wanted to forget, you would have walked away. But you didn't. You showed us it's possible. You reminded us what real shooting looks like. Thornton looked at the rifle still sitting on the firing line. I don't know. Old habits, old pride, old stupidity. No, Diaz said. His voice had lost all its cockiness, replaced with something genuine. You did it because you're still a Marine. Because you can't watch us fail when you know you can help. Because teaching us might be hard, but watching us go to war unprepared would be harder. Thornton closed his eyes. When he opened them, the Marine saw a decision being made. A wall crumbling. A door opening that had been shut for decades. If I do this, he said slowly, if I help you, you need to understand something. I'm not here to make you feel good. I'm not here to boost your confidence. I'm here to make sure that if you go to war, if you become snipers, you come home. All of you. Because I can't carry any more ghosts. We understand, sir, Chen said. You don't. But you will. Thornton walked back to the firing line. We start now. Put away your toys. Our toys? Martinez looked confused. Your spotting scopes, your ballistic computers, your wind meters, all of it. Put it away. Thornton's voice carried command now, the voice of a gunnery sergeant from another era. You've been relying on equipment to do the thinking for you. Equipment fails. Equipment gets damaged. Equipment lies. But this, he tapped his temple. And this, he tapped his chest. Never lie. You're going to learn to read wind with your skin. To measure distance with your eyes. To know when a shot's right because your body tells you, not because a computer does. Sir, that's going to take months, Chen protested. You have 6 weeks before sniper school. So we're going to compress months into weeks, and it's going to be hell. Thornton looked at each of them in turn. Any of you want to quit, do it now. Because once we start, once I invest in you, you don't get to quit. You get to succeed or you get to fail, but you don't get to give up. No one moved. Good. Thornton walked to Martinez. You first. Pick up that rifle. Martinez did. Now close your eyes. Sir. Close. Your eyes. Thornton's voice was steel. You're going to learn to feel the rifle, to know its weight, its balance, where it wants to point. Most shooters treat the rifle like a tool. It's not. It's a partner. And you need to know your partner like you know yourself. Martinez closed his eyes, holding the M40. Now tell me where the muzzle is pointing. Don't open your eyes. Feel it. 11 o'clock. 10 o'clock. You're off by 15 degrees. Again. Eyes closed. Find the target. For the next hour, Thornton worked with each Marine individually. No shooting, just holding rifles. Feeling weight. Learning balance. It was tedious, frustrating work that felt pointless until suddenly it didn't, until they started to feel what Thornton meant, started to understand that the rifle wasn't separate from them, but an extension of themselves. Then he moved them to wind reading. Forget the flags. Look at the grass between here and the target. See how it moves in waves. That's the wind made visible. Each wave is a gust. Each pause is a lull. You time your shot for the pause, not the gust. He made them lie in the grass with no rifle, just watching. Made them call out when they thought the wind had paused. For the first hour, they were wrong more than they were right. But slowly, painfully, they started to see it, started to feel the rhythm. By the time the sun started to set, all 6 Marines were exhausted. But something had changed. They weren't just shooters anymore. They were students. And Thornton, despite the ghost that haunted him, despite the pain it brought, was teaching again. 6 weeks passed like a crucible. Thornton met them every morning at 500, before the base fully woke. He worked them until their hands bled, until their eyes burned, until they dreamed about wind and distance and the perfect moment between heartbeats when a shot becomes inevitable. He taught them things not in any manual. How to read heat shimmer like a language. How to judge distance by the size of a man's head at 800 yards without a rangefinder. How to hold a position for 6 hours without moving, waiting for the one moment when the target and the conditions aligned. But more than technique, he taught them respect for the weapon, for the craft, for the weight of what they were learning to do. You're not learning to punch paper, he told them during the 4th week. You're learning to take a life from a distance, to make a decision that ends someone's existence. That's not glory. That's not heroism. That's a burden you carry forever. Every shot I made in Vietnam, I still remember. Every face, every moment. It never goes away. They stopped laughing during training, stopped joking. The work became sacred. By week 5, they were hitting the 1,000-yard target consistently. Not perfectly, not like Thornton, but enough to know they'd crossed a threshold. On the morning of their departure for sniper school, Thornton met them one last time at the range. He looked older than he had 6 weeks ago, like teaching had cost him something vital. But his eyes were clearer, less haunted. You're ready, he said simply. You'll pass the school. You'll become snipers. You'll serve. Because of you, sir, Chen said. Everything we learned. You learned it because you wanted to. I just pointed the way. Thornton pulled 6 challenge coins from his pocket, the same worn coins he'd carried for decades. These belonged to my partners, the men who died. I've carried them for 48 years, thinking I had no one to pass them to. No one worthy. He handed one to each Marine. Martinez received the coin that had belonged to Michael Reeves. Diaz got Patterson's. Chen received Castillo's. They deserved to keep serving. Thornton said quietly, I through you, through the work you'll do, through the lives you'll save, take them, honor them, come home. Martinez looked at the coin, tears streaming down his face. Sir, we'll make them proud. We'll make you proud. I'm already proud. Just come home. All 6 of you. Break the curse. They graduated sniper school 8 weeks later. All 6. Top marks. Their instructors noted something different about them. Something harder and older than the typical candidate. A respect for the craft that went deeper than ambition. 18 months later, Chen stood in a fire base in eastern Syria. His spotter called the wind. The target was 1 on 100 yards, moving through a street. High-value target. The shot would save a pinned-down squad of Marines taking fire. The equipment gave him numbers. The computer gave him a solution. But Chen closed his eyes for a moment and felt the air on his face, felt the rifle in his hands. Heard Thornton's voice. Equipment lies. Your body knows. He opened his eyes and adjusted his hold, trusting instinct over technology. The shot was perfect. The squad escaped. 0 casualties. That night, Chen pulled out Castillo's challenge coin and whispered, Thank you. Martinez was in the Hindu Kush, 2 years into his deployment. His partner was hit during an ambush. Not fatal, but bleeding badly. Enemy fighters were closing in. Martinez had to make 3 shots in rapid succession to cover their extraction, shots at distances and angles that his training said were impossible. He remembered Thornton standing at the range, making 5 perfect shots without hesitation. Remembered the old man's voice. When someone's life depends on it, impossible becomes necessary. Martinez made all 3 shots. His partner lived. All 6 Marines survived their deployments. All 6 came home. They'd made hundreds of shots between them, saved dozens of lives, served with distinction, and each one carried a coin that wasn't theirs, honoring ghosts who finally got to finish their service. 3 years after that morning on the range, Chen returned to the base. He was a sergeant now, decorated, about to become a sniper instructor himself. He went looking for Thornton, found him in Building 12, pushing the same broom, wearing the same coveralls. "Sir," Chen said. Thornton looked up, and his face transformed. "Sergeant Chen, you came back." "All 6 of us did, sir. We all came home, just like you taught us." Thornton's hands started shaking. He set down the broom, leaned against the wall. "All 6. All 6. Martinez is in instructor school. Diaz just made sergeant. The others are still deployed but safe. We stay in contact. We made a pact. We all come home because you taught us how." Thornton closed his eyes, tears flowing freely. For 48 years, he'd carried the weight of 5 dead partners, 5 ghosts that haunted every moment. And now, finally, 6 men had walked away from war because he'd taught them. Chen pulled out Castillo's coin. "Sir, I want to return this, and I want to ask you something." "Keep it," Thornton said. "It's yours now. You honored him. You served the way he would have wanted. Then come with me, please, to the sniper school. We need instructors, real instructors who know what it means, who can teach the next generation not just to shoot, but to survive, to come home." Thornton shook his head. "I'm too old. I'm just a janitor now." "No, sir. You're Ghost 6 Thornton. You're the man who turned 6 average shooters into snipers who saved lives. You're the man who carried 5 ghosts for 48 years and finally laid them to rest." Chen's voice was firm. "Those men died serving, but their service isn't over. It continues through us, through the Marines we'll train, through the lives we'll save, and it needs to continue through you. I'm 78 years old, and you made 5 perfect shots standing at 1,000 yards. Age doesn't matter. Skill does. Heart does. And you have both." Thornton looked at this young sergeant, at the man he'd helped forge, and saw something that made his decision, "What would I teach? Everything you taught us, everything the manuals don't cover, the wind reading, the instinct, the respect for the craft, the understanding that we're not just making shots, we're bringing our brothers home." For a long moment, Thornton stood silent. Then he picked up his broom one last time, carried it to the storage closet, and set it down. "When do we start?" 6 months later, at Marine Scout Sniper School in Quantico, a new instructor joined the cadre. He was old, thin, with silver hair and hands marked by scars from a war most of the students had only read about. But when he spoke, they listened. When he taught, they learned. And when he told them about his 5 partners, about the weight of the craft they were learning, about the responsibility they were accepting, they understood that they weren't just learning to shoot. They were learning to carry forward a legacy. On the wall of the instructor's office, Thornton mounted 6 challenge coins. 5 belonged to the partners he'd lost. The 6th belonged to him, the original Ghost 6 coin. Below them, a plaque read, "In memory of Davies, Huang, Reeves, Patterson, and Castillo. Marines who served with honor and continue to serve through those we train, Semper Fidelis." Every student who graduated from Thornton's class received a replica of those coins, and with them, a charge: "Come home. Honor those who couldn't. Pass forward what you've learned." The Ghost 6 curse was broken, but the Ghost 6 legacy had just begun. 10 years later, James Thornton passed away peacefully in his sleep at age 88. His funeral was held at Arlington National Cemetery, attended by over 200 Marines, students he'd trained, snipers whose lives he'd shaped, men and women who'd come home because an old janitor had picked up a rifle one morning and reminded them what excellence looked like. Chen, now a master sergeant and chief instructor at sniper school, gave the eulogy. Ago 6 carried 5 ghosts for 48 years, he said, his voice steady but thick with emotion. But he spent his final decade creating something else, not ghosts, guardians, Marines who understood that every shot carries weight, that every life we protect matters, that coming home isn't just survival, it's victory. He held up the original Ghost 6 challenge coin, the one Thornton had finally passed to him before dying. He told me once that he became a janitor because janitors don't get people killed. But he was wrong. He was never just a janitor. He was a teacher, a guardian, a man who turned his pain into purpose and his ghosts into angels. 21 rifles fired in salute. The flag was folded and presented. And as the Marines filed past the casket, each one touched it once and whispered the same words, "Thank you for bringing us home." The old man who'd stood on a rifle range with a broom, who'd said nothing before picking up a rifle and letting silence take over, had finally found his peace. Not by forgetting his ghosts, but by making sure no one else had to carry them alone.